gun-related crimes spiraling out of control, Uganda could be headed for the market times.
People are getting arms outside. They are not licensed guns.
Many people in this country sometimes want to hold firearms for status, for showing off.
Media reports show numerous gun-related crimes, from murders, armed robberies to attacks on security installations where weapons are stolen.
In breaking news, police spokesperson AIGP Andrew Felix Kawesi has been shot dead.
Two police officers attached to Kawempe police station have been attacked and their guns stolen.
Reports also indicate that over 20,000 guns are in private hands, with thousands more waiting in line for stamped approval. But will arming civilians buffer the high gun violence rates, or will it exacerbate the already volatile situation? Are security forces failing on their mandate, or are the laws of the land holding them back?
We do understand that it is now a long time since that act was made.
This is Uganda in a firearms courtship. There isn't a week where gun-related offences are not reported in the media. We peruse like this looming threat is eons away from our individual babbles, and while figures are inked, there are husbands, wives and children whose blood has been soaked in red soils. There was an apparent dark cloud when AIGP Andrew Felix Kawesi, alongside his driver and bodyguard, was brutally gunned down not far away from his home in Kulambiro, a Kampala suburb. A man that was visibly well guarded and with a sound foundation in security matters was at the pull of a trigger, ended, terminated, left for history, now just part of the statistics. The death of a high-flying policeman left behind chilling memories of a cruel murder. Among other cases include the Muslim clerics who were senselessly murdered ostensibly by rival factions. Major Mohammed Chigundo and State Prosecutor Joan Kagezi were not that different, and while these are high-profile cases, Kenneth Akena, Community Development Officer's life was ended short at just 33 years when Joseph Kanyamunyu allegedly shot him. Information at the Ministry of Internal Affairs shows that 500 people were killed between 2014 and 2016 due to gun violence, while over 1,000 survived with gunshot wounds. Estimates show that Uganda has 1 million uniformed personnel with a cache of about 2 million firearms. About 20,000 firearms are legally in private hands, with private security taking up at least 19,000, while over 3,000 guns are civilian-owned. Thousands apply to acquire firearms every year in a long process that sees many rejected and about 800 forwarded for consideration. But not all who qualify to hold firearms use them for the intended purpose of protection, rather tools of oppression. Numerous reports have shown police and army officers abuse their right of holding firearms, with some unnecessarily opening fire on civilians. Early this year, the Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence started investigating gun-related offences in the police force after allegations that some officers were hiring out guns to criminals.
People are getting arms outside license. They are not licensed guns. So some of these are rented out by the police itself. The people are supposed to secure people's lives and property.
In any family of 2 or 3, we are a family of more than 43,000. You cannot say all of them are angels. There will be a bad apple here and there. Now, one who does that, one, commits a crime, and on conviction, they will suffer the consequences of that.
Private security organizations are also on the spot for conniving with criminals. Armed civilians have not been spared either. Gun viciousness in Uganda seems to be evolving in a 3-dimensional jinx of sorts, but with many pointing fingers at security forces.
We cannot be put on the spotlight that we have not done. We've done a lot, and we need to be appreciated in that direction. Question: do Ugandans feel it that way? Do they feel it the way I feel it? Maybe yes, maybe no.
The private firearm holders have of late been implicated in the media over alleged gun misuse. It remains mind-boggling, however, how these guns are acquired. According to the Firearms Act 1970, any person above the age of 25 is eligible to apply for a firearm.
When you apply for a personal weapon, we first send your form to the LC1s. Then we'll come to the sub-counties, and we'll come to the District Security Committee. At each of these stages, the same questions are asked about you, your background, the level of the threat you're talking about, and eventually, if they are satisfied, then it is sent to the police headquarters, where again it is processed, same questions are asked, and sometimes we even delay it deliberately to know whether that threat is still persisting.
The process has been challenged by many, saying arms are only given to the privileged few who are exempted from the bureaucracy of acquiring them.
You know, to get a license, a gun license, is a privilege. So it's only the privileged people, the rich, who gets these licenses. These privileged class are a kind of untouchable. They are kind of above the law. They act with impunity. They can get guns, and following them up, sometimes it's never done.
Many people have applied the mighty and the high, and they have never been given firearms. Why? There is vetting. I'm a celebrity, and they know they can attack me, nothing. I think it's a mentality thing, and the Inspector General of Police is very cagey in as far as clearing these applications.
Once an applicant's file is cleared and approved by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, it is forwarded to Chibuli Police Training School. Here, candidates are prepared for the sensitive task of owning a firearm.
In this training, we emphasize so much in 4 main areas. But the major part of it is we develop the attitude of a person who's going to be armed. Through mindset, feelings, it's not a matter of just taking a decision that you do whatever you want. The firearm, it takes over your responsibility.
About 85% of this training emphasizes attitude, while 15% looks at the skill of holding and assembling a gun, how to fire and stay safe.
That means you have been instructed, now ready to shoot, not so. Yeah. So you cock the gun like that, as I did. Okay. Then now you assume the posture, body mechanism. Okay, good. Like that, very good. Are you firm grip? So see through here. This one should come here. Fire. Good. Don't fear the gun. Don't fear. Good.
I'm just from the shooting range at Bukasa, and this is my scorecard. For a first timer, I'm not doing that bad. With a few more lessons, I could hit the target. But it's not about hitting the target, then it is about preparing my mind psychologically. For most gun violence cases, psychological issues are to blame.
You have to learn how to assess somebody. Use psychometric tests and assess how somebody, their line of thinking, the way they regulate their emotions, the way how they behave.
Rogers Nsereko, a senior clinical psychologist at Butabika Hospital, wants thorough psychological tests done on all possible gun holders.
People with personality problems, many times they're also intelligent. Some of them know even how to cover up their weaknesses. They'll go through the training. They'll be candid enough, go through the training. You arm them with a gun. But you're arming this person with a gun, a person with an already difficult personality. So now you're giving power into their hands. What are they going to do with that power?
Security officials, however, maintain that the lot of legal gun holders is closely monitored.
Those who hold firearms legally rarely commit crimes using those firearms. It's those firearms in criminal hands that have dogged communities, that have dogged. this country.
In most armed robberies, investigations have come to reveal that private security agents connive with gangs to attack the very people they offer protection. The security companies we managed to speak to turned us down as we delved deeper into their alleged gun misuse. The Small Arms Unit of the Uganda Police Force oversees the operations of these companies. Assistant Commissioner of Police Hilary Kulaije heads this unit.
When such cases come, we sit as that committee. We assess. If we see there is a problem in the management of that security company, then the committee recommends to Inspector General of Police and that license is cancelled.
There is constant check, but in some cases, there may be a lack of, there may be a lapse, not a lack, but a lapse, and people take advantage of that kind of lapse.
The National Focal Point on Small Arms in Uganda, mandated to coordinate efforts to prevent, combat and eradicate the proliferation of illicit small arms and light weapons, is also set to mark all guns in the country. This will in turn help the police ballistics unit in greasing investigations into gun-related crimes which oftentimes hang in balance. Uganda is, however, sandwiched by a drug-torn civil war in South Sudan, insurgencies in DRC, Burundi and Central African Republic, while Kenya's Turkanas habitually attack Uganda's pastoralist communities. These conflicts do not make the fight against gun violence any easier.
We can do very well like the disarmament we did in the Karamoja sub-region. But our neighbors, like the Kenyan, which had not disarmed the Turkana, the South Sudan, not having disarmed the Toposa and the Dingas, they still has some problem with our community, despite the fact that we have disarmed.
Bilaterally, we have discussions with those countries that might be concerned as a way of checking arms trafficking.
The new act is being looked at as one of the modifications government is putting in place to solve the gun violence confusion. This legislation is to repeal the 48-year-old Firearms Act by literally bulletproofing it. Under the new act, the following persons are not eligible to own a firearm: those with pending cases in any courts of law, ex-convicts of any offence involving abuse of alcohol and drugs, terrorism, kidnap, human trafficking in and outside the country, and domestic violence. The new act also bars victims of physical and sexual abuse in a domestic relationship from acquiring a firearm. It further calls for the establishment of a central firearms registry where data related to all firearms and their holders in the country will be kept. If not checked, the increasing gun violence rates coupled with the standing socio-economic development can turn into a breeding nest for an even more explosive security situation.
Criminals are daring, very daring, so it's the mind, it's the battle of the mind. Crime is a mind game, security is a mind game. We need to be on top. It would be very unfortunate to be attacked at home, dead in the middle of the night, and criminals broke into your house and you are just looking at them. If you have a firearm, you would teach them a lesson, and probably their relatives will tell the lesson.
Last year, 6,426 illegal guns were burnt, signifying zero tolerance to the proliferation of small arms. In January this year, Police Flying Squad in the same effort released a report of 48 guns and 524 rounds of ammunition recovered in a 6-month operation.
This issue of gun violence, we are winning. Why? Because, let me tell you, the population is fully agreeable with government on this matter.
I stand at the scene of crime of the Bombo mass shooting. March 9, 2013, Private Patrick Okoto Dodge with an AK-47 assault rifle and 30 rounds of ammunition opened fire on 10 people. His victims are long gone while he is locked behind bars for 90 years. Justice was served, but to the bereaved, it can never equate to the presence of their loved ones. Maybe implementation of a new law in works will save what seems to be a firearms courtship from turning sour. Rhoda Ngonzi for UBC.